How's it going, y'all? This is McFrostyBoy, and in this video, I'll be helping set you up for success in Season 8 as I walk you through one of my preferred rotation strategies for ranked play on Kings Canyon. Although there have been some changes to the map since Season 7, the general flow of the map hasn't really changed that much. Fortunately, this particular drop strategy focuses on the southeast corner of the map, which is the part that's furthest from the wreckage of Fuse's ship. Wow, almost like I started with this one on purpose or something. I'll walk you step by step through each stage of the game using an example from this season. This one's going to be all about that big brain strategy, but if you need a refresher on how to pilot a drop in general, you'll want to check out my video on Jump Master Fundamentals. I actually have a lot more than just this single drop strategy when it comes to playing on Kings Canyon, so keep an eye out for videos covering my other rotation strats in the coming weeks. Okay, let's get your push for Predator started. Ooh, I'm very close to dying. Revs down. Okay, yeah, it's just Fuse. Yeah, you just got sent back. He's broken? That was actually... Quite surprisingly, we're going to start with the drop. This particular drop strategy focuses on the northeast corner of the map, specifically on Map Room. Map Room, as a location, has a really high loot density, and in the hands of a strategic player, that's hopefully going to be you, the information advantages you gain from using the satellite is a great way to start building an understanding of the general flow of the map. Additionally, this northeast corner is a high point on the map, meaning that the majority of fights and rotations will either be on an even or advantageous vertical footing. The location can be reached from approximately 900 to 1000 meters away with a max distance wave drop, and honestly, most squads are pretty lazy when it comes to stretching for drops, so don't be like them. When landing on Map Room, I'm personally willing to contest a single enemy squad. Typically, there's enough there that both squads should be able to gear out with a gun and armor on each player. Any more teams than that, and you may wind up having squad mates fighting without weapons or armor, which I find to be highly inconsistent. If there's more than one squad contesting you, you can look at Repulsor as your next landing location. I'd avoid sharing Repulsor with another squad since the loot there is more sparse, and you'd ideally like to quick loot Repulsor and third party the Map Room squads. Your next alternatives are Hydro Jam, Water Treatment, the Watchtower and nearby Cascades, or the Swamps, depending on the drop path. The most common early fights in this area take place between Repulsor and Map Room squads. If you land Map Room, your goal should be to find some range and get on top of the wall first to establish an early high ground advantage before pushing further into the area. You'll need to use the jump power or some other mobility ability like a Pathfinder zipline or a Horizon Q. Repulsor squads are the other end of this equation, and they should be looking to loot more quickly than the Map Room squads before either seizing control of the wall or using the high ground of the hill to prevent Map Room squads from approaching the wall and also controlling the jump tower. Hydro Jam and Swamp squads will look to attack Repulsor and check Map Room on their way out of this area. Regardless of where you play from this side of the map, you borderline need to clear Repulsor and Map Room to ensure that you're not leaving enemies behind you on the high ground. In our example, you'll see that one squad goes down into Repulsor and another lands in Watchtower. There may be one squad contesting us, or they're going to go into Repulsor. They're going to Repulsor. One squad went into the Watchtower. As I'm looting Map Room, you'll notice that I make a point to pick up a longbow, in spite of the fact that I really do not tend to run snipers in general, because I'm looking for an option that has some range to it for the upcoming wall play, and I just don't think the Mastiff is going to cut it. I slap a 3x on it, and I am arriving at the top of the wall within about 1 minute after landing from the dropship. My level of urgency in reaching this position is so great, I'm willing to skip an R3 when my teammate pings and stick with the longbow. Make sure to remember this in a few moments. The Watchtower and Repulsor squads have already started to fight on the low ground, and even though I looted as quickly as I did, I'm already up against the clock, as these enemies become fully committed to eliminating one another. As I open fire, you can see how far behind my squad mates are as they're still repositioning. This should make it pretty clear why taking too long to loot is one of my biggest pet peeves. At this point in the game, I've already secured a powerful position on top of the wall, scouted out the location of enemy squads in Repulsor, cleared the top of this building I'm standing on to ensure we don't get backsighted, and have started registering significant damage on the enemy squad. In comparison, my teammates are making an extremely risky jump tower play, dropping directly on the enemies on the low ground in an area where they have very little information. Their decision is based on the assumption that these buildings I'm standing on are clear of enemies, which they wouldn't have been able to make if I had been slower reaching my position. Would I still like to have that R301 from earlier? Sure. Do I want it badly enough that I would sacrifice the easy damage in KP along with a strong guarantee of not getting backsighted in the process? No, so I make do with the longbow. If all three of us had been moving quickly, we could have traversed this area more quickly by going hip to hip, making it easier for my squad mates to secure KP as well. We clean up the squads and get our early KP and loot, and I finally noticed that we forgot to actually use the map room on our way up. which as you'll see in a second actually winds up being super important to this strategy. Your first rotation after clearing this corner of the map is going to be largely decided based on the direction the circle is pulling, as this will heavily influence your next rotations. We'll work clockwise, starting with the northwest corner of the map. Northwest pulls are going to require the most movement from your squad, and my recommendation is that you should try to favor pathing that takes you through the high side of the cage before reaching the high side of what I refer to as Death Hill. From there, you can assess where fighting is happening and complete your rotation, preferably still maintaining the high ground. The other reasonably timely option is going to be rotate towards market. You can reach the location directly or by passing through water treatment first. When making this rotation, the jump tower is going to be very important, as it will allow you to bypass the vulnerable low ground near the river. From the market, I like to move west towards Airbase and Gauntlet, since the alternative is passing through tunnels where it is easy to get third-partied before again reaching an unfavorable position near the river. For northeast corner pulls, you can move to the cage or Death Hill, where you can set up for a gatekeeping situation from high ground if you're looking for additional fighting, or you can rotate to the hydro and swamp sides to avoid fighting and reach the end circle sooner depending on the needs of your squad. Southeast corner pulls can be some of the most uncomfortable I've found, since you'll need to make a judgment call on how far you want to wander from this corner of the map, even if you're trying to make the more passive play. Squads looking to fight will want to control the high ground, again near the cage for gatekeeping purposes, or may make a quick back and forth trip from the watchtower to water treatment or market if they see fighting break out at either location. Reminder again to use the jump tower in order to be on time to these fights. More passive squads will most likely want to patrol either the watchtower or the walls of repulsor before returning for another map room scan after the circle closes. Finally, squads dealing with southwest corner pulls should decide if they want to go to water treatment or market, potentially taking a stop off at watchtower if they need more loot before fighting. Squads still looking for fights should check if they can isolate a squad in water treatment or if they can third-party fighting in market, either directly or by passing through water treatment to the birdhouse. Realistically, isolating a squad in market will be tough, since it'll see a lot of traffic on pulls like these. More passive squads can rotate from water treatment to salvage, potentially using the jump tower at birdhouse, and they can even take the jump tower at salvage to gauntlet if they feel ready to start playing for endgame position. As a general rule on Kings Canyon, you should try to limit how much time you spend near the river. It's the defining feature on the map, as it's a low ground position relative to all other parts of the map, and there are a limited number of paths through the area, because literally stepping into the river leaves your squad vulnerable due to the limited cover and movement slow. The weaknesses of being near the river is actually the reason why fights tend to break out near these hot locations. They are the jumping off point for some of the faster or less exposed paths across the river. The other key piece of information you'll get from the map room is where all squads are located. Regardless of which direction the ring pulls, you should use this info to make a prediction of where you think fights will take place out on the map, which you'll probably look to third party if you still need loot or KP. It's okay if your prediction isn't perfect. What's important is that you make the attempt so that you start building that skill. This will help you understand the flow of the map even when you don't have the information advantage from the map room. This game, our squad has what initially looks to be a west by southwesterly ring that winds up hard pulling to become a west by northwesterly ring, which we would not have known about without the map room, since we have a barrage instead of an actually useful character that can scan the beacons. We see that enemies will likely fight near market, and we use the watchtower jump tower to make the crossing to third party the fight. We track down some easy kills in spite of potato aim, and our squad is all teed up for the endgame. How did I not see him? Late game usually winds up being more specific to the particulars of the game, but you should know where you'll need to go for your second rotation thanks to the map room scan. Towards the back half of Circle 2, you're going to want to make sure you've got a secure route into the next circle if you've got the time. Overall, this strategy should minimize the need to cross the river, but if you still need to make a crossing before endgame, you should do so proactively, since being forced to cross in front of an enemy squad with the circle to your back is, surprise, a losing situation. After Circle 3 begins, your primary concern should be figuring out where the circle will end and securing a power position, or devising a play if you plan to enter late. For obvious reasons, beacon characters are really impactful at this point of the game. Generally, I recommend securing a power position over trying to make a play as you enter end circle late, because compared to World's Edge, I found a lot of the endgame circles in Kings Canyon have a tendency to produce some pretty lopsided situations where a small number of positions are particularly strong. For those of you who feel bad about occupying a quote-unquote campy position, I'm just going to say that map knowledge, memorization of endgame circles, and capacity for predicting the shape of the final fight are important skills too. If you're bored, you should start thinking about what positions enemy squads are going to take up and put together a simple flowchart of responses you'll use when the fighting gets heavy. Or you can just W key everything thinking Apex is just like Call of Duty, lose a bunch, and then complain that the game/meta are way too campy instead of actually enjoying one of the most interesting parts of the game. If that last sentence made you angry, then I want to personally thank you for playing the ranked game mode and feeding me RP. In this particular game, we're not yet sure where the circle is going to pull. We don't have a hold stomp, so barreling straight for the center of the ring is probably not ideal. We decide to go to airbase first, where we'll play the wall to scout out the rest of the enemy squads before attempting to slip in later into runoff. I think this might be a rat. There's only 17 people in the lobby, but there's 8 squads. 16 over 7 now. After cleaning up a rat in airbase, we move towards the fighting near the pit runoff area. Since we are proactive about reaching our endgame position, we're able to repel an enemy squad using the high ground before they can reach runoff. This squad would have been especially tough to deal with later since they had a Watson. The Watson's been hit for like 105. I didn't actually see that to them. Watson's been hit for like 105, she's broken.
There's one on him back then.
Okay. An enemy attacks our squad from behind, and having scared off the Watson squad, we turn to deal with the squad attacking us from airbase to avoid leaving an enemy to our backs. This is going to be the hard commit, because... well, it sounds like... After cleaning up this enemy, the circle reveals a runoff ending, and our squad immediately prepares to secure the final power position on top of runoff, which is going to be our endgame play. How do I get up here? Totally wrong. Oh yeah, it's over here. As I always say, endgame is particular to each specific game and general strategies tend to break down, so I'll just be walking you through what our squad does here at the end. We use the top of runoff to scout out the locations of the enemy squads. With only 5 squads remaining, I start counting out individual squads and work on keeping track of where they all are, ultimately finding that they're all to one side of us to the east. A squad shows up from the spotted lake area, and I spend a lot of time making sure that they do not push us. What's her name? Has purple. Lifeline has purple. She's been hit 97. You'll notice that we do not commit on this enemy squad, even though we register big damage on them, because leaving this high ground position for too long makes it likely that an enemy will notice and take the position from us while we deal with the spotted lake squad. Okay, 2 squads have reached over here. We can't let this squad climb up on us. You can see the benefit of our proactive positioning as the other 3 enemy squads wind up having to fight each other in order to be able to rotate into the ring, really only leaving us with the spotted lake squad to contend with in the immediate future. Our objective here is to just control the top of this building, and if an enemy does manage to make it to the top, then we're just going to commit to controlling the side of the building where I'm standing. My squad mates want to commit on the 2 other squads fighting below us. While I don't particularly agree with giving up such a strong position, the Spotted Lake squad will have a hard time reaching us in time to punish us for cleaning up these other 2 enemy squads. There's a PK inside here. Can you guys help me with this Wraith so we can double kick this door, please? Getting a med jet. This is the last squad we gotta hold. As we predicted, the Spotted Lake squad reaches the top of the building, and honestly, they could have made this fight a lot harder for us by continuing to abuse the high ground as the circle closed. Instead, their Bloodhound drops down onto the low ground and overextends. I basically throw the punish on this Bloodhound, but their misplay forces the rest of their squad to trickle in, making it much easier for my teammates to clean up and take the W. I'm just gonna flee because I can't hit anything. Well, that's going to be the first of a few ranked drop and rotation strategies I'll be sharing with you all in the coming weeks. This strategy is a great way to get a solid understanding of the flow of games in Kings Canyon that will serve you well regardless of where your games take you in Season 8. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, stay frosty, my friends. Good luck, have fun, and I'll see you next time.
You not think so? He's kicking over now.
Is he an idiot?
Okay, oopsie.
Nice flash.
Actually, no, he was flush. My bad.
It just does so much damage.